I'm Cass Dowding, and this is The Sentimental Gardener, a podcast where I have conversations with people about the memories and personal stories behind the plants they love and the gardens they create. By sharing these stories, my hope is that you see how gardens and plants have the potential to make our lives richer and to help connect us back to ourselves, each other, and the natural world around us. My guest today is Jocelyn Bennett, landscape designer and co-founder of Earthcore Landscapes with her partner Liam. Jocelyn's journey from a 2-year-old collecting flower cuttings on her tricycle to designing award-winning native gardens is one of following what feels right, even when it meant dropping out of engineering after 6 weeks, partly because she missed being surrounded by green spaces. Today we'll hear her childhood memories of playing the tulip tree spotting game with her arborist father, drawing pictures in eucalyptus canopies, and learning to see plants through time and presence. We'll hear about her winding path to landscape design and the sentimental plants that shaped her love of the natural world. We'll dive into her experience creating Reset, the boutique garden that won first place at this year's Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show. Using 100% Australian native plants, Jocelyn designed a space that proved natives can be both spectacular and deeply calming, converting even a judge who insisted that they don't even like native plants. So, big welcome today to my guest on the Sentimental Gardener podcast, Jocelyn Bennett. I always start the podcasts going back to discovering your early memories of being with plants or in a garden or a green space. So is there a special space that comes up for you when you think all the way back to your early life?
I think an early memory of gardens, plants, green spaces for me, we lived in Baldwin when I was really little, and I'd go for walks with Mum. Mum would take us on a walk or take me on a walk, and I'd be in my little tricycle and we'd pick flowers that were just cascading over the fences, and we'd take cuttings. So we'd immigrated from South Africa when I was 2, and we just lived in a rental in Baldwin. Didn't have any money for any sort of garden, and Mum and I would go on these walks and we'd collect flowers and cuttings, and I'd put them in the back in the trailer of my tricycle and we'd go home and we'd create this garden from cuttings.
Oh, wow.
So that's a really, I guess, where it started for me, an early memory.
That's so beautiful. My grandma talked about how that was just the way things were done a long time ago, like getting cuttings.
Yeah.
From the neighbourhood or like your neighbours. Yeah.
I always found it really exciting. I remember this the strong smell of like geraniums and daisies. Those smells really shaped my childhood. And I don't think we really planted too many geraniums, but I think a neighbour must have had them cascading over their wall or something. And Iridium, seaside daisy. Yeah, we had that everywhere.
Yeah, they're so great for propagating too.
Yeah, they just fill spaces. Yeah, especially anywhere that's just concrete and a little slither of soil. Yeah.
How old were you when you came from South Africa?
About 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite young. So these are, really early memories.
And are your parents from South Africa?
Yes. Yeah, both South African.
Yeah.
Yeah, always loved gardening. Both parents love the garden. Dad's actually an arborist, so learnt, I think I've, through osmosis, just acquired a lot of knowledge of trees and plants growing up. And then Mum, really keen gardener. I grew up on a bit more space in Monbulk in the Dandenong Ranges. So, we lived in Baldwin until I was about 4 and then moved into the Dandenong Ranges. Just spent every weekend with my parents out in the garden, gardening, raking leaves, trying to get something to grow in the shade. Yeah. Our neighbour's property backed onto Sherbrooke Forest and he would give us free rein. Like we just could walk through his property anytime we wanted and go explore the forest and follow kangaroo tracks and just anything we found really, and spent all our time in the creek getting muddy and making little dams and weirs with rocks.
So good.
Yeah.
So at the moment you work as a landscape designer and you and your partner Liam have a business called Earthcore Landscapes.
Yep.
Did you always dream of working in the field or the industry?
No, I didn't. So Yeah, I spent so much of my childhood outside in gardens, in the bush. We'd go visit gardens. I'm in the Dandenong Ranges, filled with various gardens. We'd visit them a lot. And then by the time I was a teenager, my room was overflowing with houseplants, so potted plants and terrariums. I got really into making terrariums, which was really fun, just a totally different world because you've got these closed ecosystems. And then making little like I was growing microgreens in my terrariums, like barley, and I don't know, I got really into it at one stage, but never did I think, I didn't know landscape architecture was a thing. I didn't know landscape design was a thing. I knew you could be a gardener. I didn't know much more. I just knew people loved their gardens and I loved being outside, but never thought I'd be where I am now. I actually I was choosing, when I left school, I was choosing between engineering and fine arts. So I was convinced I'd be one or the other. I went into engineering because, it's hard to make money in art. So I was told, went into engineering. I lasted all of 6 weeks, called it quits straight away. Did not enjoy it. It wasn't for me. Loved the problem solving side of things, but I just saw that it would lead to a job at a desk in an office cubicle, and it wasn't for me. I didn't want that. And I remember speaking to my course coordinator, and when I was dropping out, really, it was in Hawthorn, so Swinburne. It's not too, it's pretty green. You've got a few trees, parks around there. I couldn't handle being away from the bush, the forest. I found I'd actually get really anxious being in Hawthorn, surrounded by trams and traffic and buildings. So that was a bit of a wake up for me. Not only did I not want to be working in an office, but I needed green space, really green space around me at that time. So, I dropped out of engineering, and my dad kind of said to me, if you've dropped out of uni, you've got to do something. You can't just sit around at home, which
Thanks, Dad.
Fair enough. So living in the Dandenong Ranges, I was looking for work just out of school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And a local nursery was hiring, a wholesale production nursery. And so I got the job. Dad bought me my first pair of steel cap boots and my first pair of Velcro secateurs. All up, I think it was maybe $300 or $400. And he said to me, if you last less than 3 months here, you've got to pay me back. I'm really stubborn. I'm really competitive. That was all the motivation I needed. I did not want to pay him back for these boots and secateurs. So both of which I still have and use actually. So pretty good investment. I stuck out the job, ended up working there. My bosses were really passionate and knowledgeable about horticulture, and not just, it was, we were growing camellias and rhododendrons, so exotic, not my thing now, but my bosses were incredibly passionate and they just shared so much knowledge with me and that passion with me. And they'd lend me books and, I got really interested, and I discovered this whole world that exists beyond engineering and fine arts, really. I discovered that horticulture was a field. And so I ended up studying a diploma of horticulture from that job. And then you go to TAFE to study a diploma of horticulture. At that time, there was 2 units of study separating the diploma of horticulture and the diploma of landscape design. So I thought, why not do both? Because there's only 2 extra units. So I applied for the double diploma and was studying that. I then met Liam, my partner, and he was running his own landscaping business at that stage. We ended up, we deferred a semester and we travelled, and when it was time to go back to study, COVID hit. So
oh, no way.
Yeah, we just never went back. I didn't go back because I wanted to further my studies, so I never finished the diplomas because I just felt I really loved the subject, the field, but it wasn't quite enough. It wasn't quite what I wanted to do. I wanted to delve into it a bit deeper, and I discovered the Bachelor of Landscape Architectural Design. So that's what it's called. It's not landscape architecture. It's a Bachelor of Landscape Architectural Design at RMIT. I applied last minute before the semester started and I got in, put together a folio, went through the interview process and got in. Spent the next 4 years studying for landscape.
4 years.
Yeah, Bachelor of Landscape Architectural Design, which, it challenged me. It was challenging. It was really, really interesting. Far more conceptual. So I'd become very used to and accustomed to very practical study of the diplomas, which is really useful, I think. And then I dove into this degree, this bachelor's, and I was hit with reading after reading, and it was all these really deep conceptual ideas, which I just loved. During that time, I left the nursery that I was working for while I was still doing the diploma, and ended up getting a job working as a gardener for a lady who maintained this really incredible garden in Camberwell, 2 acres of garden, private garden in Camberwell.
2 acres in Camberwell.
Yeah, it was spectacular. You walked through the front gates and you felt like you were in Queensland or somewhere. It was
really
tropical and humid, and I think we spent 2 full days a week there maintaining it, and there was a team of 4 of us. So incredible amount of work went into this garden, and it was just amazing. Again, exotic, so not what I do now, but I learned so much gardening with this lady. I guess what I'm saying is I worked in different places, and I studied the diplomas, I studied the degree. The most I learnt was in the field, practicing. So working in nurseries, gardening. And then I left my gardening job and I actually applied for a job with Emmeline Bowman from STEM Landscape Architecture. I didn't reach any of her criteria on the job ad. I wasn't qualified. I didn't have the right experience. But Mum's always said, you've got to be in it to win it.
Yeah.
You've got to give it a shot. If the worst you can get told is no.
So true.
It was experience I really wanted. It was a field I was studying, I wanted to get into. I took the shot and got the job.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's just, I met with Em for an interview and we ended up talking for hours. We shared the same values. We got along really well. Same passion, similar history. So I got the job and geez, I learned a lot from Em. She's an incredible woman, incredibly passionate, and not just about design, but about habitat, about animals, plants. So I learned an incredible amount through her and ended up working for Em, I think, for the majority of my degree at RMIT, which was, again, incredibly beneficial to be working in the field while studying. Yeah, that's a lot of how I got here. Ended up, I guess, I'm still with Liam now, obviously, and he continued to run his business through all of this. I ended up picking up more and more work with him, kind of helping with, I don't know, the bookwork and all the stuff that happens after hours, basically, helping on the weekends to finish projects. And, we kind of opened up this opportunity for me to work with Liam full-time. We got more and more work. We ended up getting design work as well. And so I left M, which was really hard to do. We still have a close relationship and we actually still work with STEM quite a bit. But now I work full-time with Liam running Earthcore Landscapes, like you said. And I run, I guess, the design side of the business and Liam runs the landscaping side. So, here we are today.
I love that, the whole that you tried something and then you're like, oh, it's not for me. Like you tried engineering and then went, no, it's not for me. And then you've gone into the next course and it's almost like you try things and each bit was pushing you closer to where you were destined to head.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds like it all complemented each other as well. Because I don't know if this is true, but because I'm, learning about horticulture and the industry and landscape. And some people have said to me, you're either a plants person or like a landscape architect person. And so someone explained once at a conference I went to that not all landscape architects or designers have a lot of education in the plant side of things. I don't know what your experience is, but it sounds like you've had a lot of experience in both sides and it's so beneficial for how you work now.
It was actually a bit of a gripe that my cohort had with the Bachelor of Landscape Architecture Design. We were all desperate for plant knowledge. And I had quite a bit of plant knowledge going into it just with the path I'd taken to get there. And I actually found with my cohort at least, a lot of us none of us had come straight from school. we were probably, I guess, I was one of the younger people there. I can't remember how old I was now, but maybe 20, 21 going into the course. So we'd all had at least like a few years of doing different things before ending up in the bachelor. And quite a few of us had plant experience. We'd work as gardeners or in nurseries. And we all had a gripe with the university for not including more plant-based subjects.
Okay.
And as I was finishing up my final year of study, this was beginning to change, which was really exciting. And there was this real push for plant knowledge. But previously, there wasn't much plant knowledge in the Bachelor of Landscape Architectural Design. And I can kind of see that landscape architecture is so broad. It covers so many different spaces. You look at old like town squares, the history of town squares, and that's something that landscape architecture, that's really landscape architecture.
Wow, really?
Yeah, designing civil spaces.
Yeah.
Spaces for people to move, like it's all about the program and how the space is used primarily before looking at the finishes, so the paving or the buildings, the plants. So I kind of understand that, but I think in today's world there is this real push for plants and green spaces, not only for climate change but for people, our well-being. So I hope there will be more and more plant knowledge integrated into the course, but I think especially when I was studying, a lot of us were sourcing our own independent experience with plants. So a lot of my friends were looking for jobs. They weren't looking for jobs in landscape architecture. They were looking for jobs at nurseries and as gardeners to just get exposure to plants. It's the only way to learn, I think, really. You can learn the basics at school, but to know your plants, you need exposure to them.
Yeah, because plants change over the course of a year. I mean, that's Cass, but I think about uni and everything's broken up into tiny subjects that only last like 10 weeks or so. To really, we really understand the plant, you've got to see the life cycle, don't you?
Oh,
really?
Even beyond a year. I still don't know. I don't think I know much about plants. I've only been in it a few years. It's
but to follow a plant, do you know what I mean? To be able to say, I know what it does when it doesn't have enough light, or it's in the wrong type of soil, or there's not enough water, or to be able to spot all that. Yeah, absolutely. I can so see how the value of working with it over time outside of a uni course would just make the experience richer and make you a better person in using plants and seeing how to use them and get the best out of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it assists my practice. It feels a lot more well-rounded having that knowledge of plants, and I think it gives me the confidence to explore a wider range of plants as well. So often landscape architects, I find they have their palette and they stick to it. And it's the same 10 plants at every public space. And it's just like, it'd be wonderful to include a bit more diversity in these plantings. Yeah, you need the scale, the time. You need to be able to explore these plants.
I didn't know that was a thing. Someone explained that to me as well. I think, maybe I would love to do garden design. And then I think, but how would you know? Like, it's almost like the possibilities are endless. And then someone said, but then you would just develop your niche or your palette, and then you become known for that palette. And I'm like, okay. Like, I see why people do that.
Oh, absolutely.
And it makes the job easier. Like who supplies those plants. You become an expert in creating that look or the aesthetic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm like, but what happens if the client has an affinity with this one?
Well, I think that you still have your core plants. Like I think I use the same handful of plants in most of my designs, if not all. But then you branch out from that foundational palette, because no two spaces are the same. Yeah. We've got all sorts of microclimates, environments. Yeah, to try and whack the exact same palette everywhere would be a challenge, unless you're working in a really niche area. And especially I think this is evident in coastal regions. You've got a really niche set of circumstances to work with.
Yeah, so true.
So yeah, you do. I guess the palette is useful. I have my favourite plants, but then I like to branch out from there. And it depends on the environment, the client, what they want.
I just find it fascinating. And thinking about that, because I came across you and your work when you were developing or designing or putting together a show garden for the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show this year, or MIFGS as it's sometimes called. You designed a garden that was called Reset.
Yes. Yep.
Could you tell us more about that experience and your choices on the plants you used, or just some of that insight into the design process and how you came up with that idea?
Yeah, so the Melbourne Flower and Garden Show, or MIFGS, we had a boutique garden in it this year, and that is a 5 by 5 metre square, and you can do anything you like in that square.
See, I would be like, oh my gosh, what will I do? But tell me more about how you worked out what to put in that 5 by 5.
Honestly, one of the hardest designs because you've got no brief. You write your own brief.
Right.
And you actually get judged against your own brief.
Okay.
So one of the components is how well you achieve your brief. So as a designer, that's kind of a nightmare. Like you've got free reign for once in your life. Like you don't even have to look at environmental factors like sun and shade and soil. Right. It's pure free reign, which is terrifying. But I guess Liam and I wanted to showcase what we love and what we do. And I guess that's how we came up with Reset. So Reset really aimed to create a space for people to reset. That's a bit corny, but that was the idea. We wanted to create a sanctuary for humans and non-humans alike. So somewhere, I guess, you walk into and there's a weight lifted off you. You breathe out. It's quiet. Your mind goes quiet. I think that to me is really significant. I think having your brain go quiet in this modern, fast, busy world where we're always reachable, someone can get in touch with us. We've always got something to do next or an appointment coming up. I don't know about other people, but my mind's always racing. So to get my mind to go still and quiet is a challenge. And these spaces, so I've got my places I go to and they're often outdoors, and we wanted to recreate that for our audience, create a space that was quiet, it was calming, grounding. So that was the idea of Reset. And so for us, that looked like a creek. A creek was non-negotiable. So we love water. Liam's true passion is waterways, water, wetlands, creeks, rivers, dams, you name it. So, and it's such an intrinsic part, I think, of being calm. It's been used for forever, really, the sound of running water, especially clean water. And then rocks as well, which our creeks we've used. We create natural water features. So we try to make them look as natural as possible. Yeah. And so we use rocks and pebbles in that. So those two aspects I think are incredibly grounding and calming. So that was non-negotiable for us. That brings us to the palette of the design. The palette was really, I focused on texture first, colour second. And in that, I guess, in focusing on texture first, most of the plants were coincidentally subdued greens or greys because I focused on the texture. And I wanted interest year round, and texture was an easier way to achieve that.
Okay.
And these textures were soft predominantly. I wanted really soft textures. I guess when I say texture, I don't mean what the plant feels like. I mean what it looks like, so the visual texture of it. So I had different shaped leaves, all soft because I wanted that movement in the wind. If I had anything too rigid, it would have been jarring in this space.
Yeah. Okay.
So the soft textures really made the whole space really calm and subdued. And then, looking at flowers. Flowers really were secondary in my design. I love flowers, don't get me wrong, but something about it, I wanted this soft, subdued space. The other thing is it's just really hard to find Australian native plants in Melbourne in flower in March, which is when the show was. So, I think focusing on texture meant I had a point of interest despite the flowers. You may then see photos of my garden and say, wow, there's a lot of flowers. I mean, there were flowers, but they were quite secondary. They were subtle. Yeah. They weren't flamboyant or strong colours. They were all pastel colours. I had quite a few people describe this to me as being quite a feminine garden.
Okay.
I guess that was it wasn't something I aimed for. It just happened.
Okay.
But the soft waviness of the texture. So the garden, I guess, is really grounding because you've got these strong elements of rock and water and timber. And then the moving textures soften it all.
One of the striking features, and striking as far as it was quite original and different compared to the other gardens there, that I saw a lot of people comment on in the public, like people comment while I was actually standing there looking at your garden, is, do you call it a wall
A
or
screen?
The screen.
I know what you're talking about.
You know where I'm going, don't you? Because
yeah.
it was created out of, was it Rio mesh and then little wooden squares?
Yeah.
And that had movement to it
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, so movement really was a huge part of this garden. I don't think movement was a goal when I first set out designing the garden, but it just happened in every aspect of the garden. And one of those things, was the screen, which we constructed out of concrete reinforcement mesh that was framed between cypress posts. And then inside each square, so the concrete reinforcement mesh or Rio mesh, it's like this mesh of rusted steel. And inside each square, we set just hardwood squares that we cut individually. And we hung those with just two little bits of tie wire. And, they moved in the wind, which was something I practiced. I tried to figure out how to tie them on to make sure they did actually move.
Yeah.
And then I hoped that it was windy on the day, which it was. One or two of the days was windy.
Yeah.
But the inset timber squares in the Rio screen actually also, they were a pixelated silhouette of the Kinglake and Donivarang ranges.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So looking from afar, I mean, it's pretty distorted because it's a small space and it's pixelated, but that was the idea. So they were placed, there was a lot of intent behind that screen. There was intent behind the whole garden. But yeah, people loved it.
They did.
And I think people loved it because it's achievable.
Yes.
They could take it home and do it in their own backyard, which I kind of love.
Yeah, and you could do it without having to go buy new materials.
Yeah.
Like you can get secondhand mesh, off Gumtree or Facebook, and then you could use offcut. I just thought it was so creative, and like what you said, it was just achievable, which sometimes going to these gardens, they are spectacular and amazing, but you can't always replicate it at home because to go and buy all the plants and to do all that hardscaping would cost so much money. But just to go, I'm thinking for me, like, I live in a rental, so we can't put permanent structures up, but you could put definitely something like that up to screen neighbours or a wall. I just loved it. So I wanted to talk about that. And so many other people just, talk about it.
I was really glad because I spent hours every time I got in the car for weeks. I was obsessing over this screen.
Really?
In the initial submission for the garden, I had drawn just a Rio mesh screen.
Okay.
So that had to stay. That I couldn't change that as part of the submission. But I wanted to create something that held the space a little bit more, but was still permeable. So I had to think up, how could I make this Rio mesh screen less permeable? So every time I got in the car, I obsessed over it for weeks. And that was what I landed on.
What was the best feedback that you heard about the garden?
One of the judges said this. I can't even remember. Oh, he did. He said it to me. He came up to me and he said, I loved your garden and I don't even like natives. Which I just found hilarious because our garden was 100% Australian native and 60% of those were from the Greater Melbourne region, so Indigenous to Greater Melbourne.
Is that can I just ask, so the difference between native and Indigenous, are you able to just expand on that?
Of course. So native plants, if I'm Melbourne, if I'm in Melbourne and I use a plant from anywhere in Australia, it's considered native. So that plant... anywhere in Australia, it's native. Yeah. If I'm in Melbourne, I guess it depends. It's wherever you are. An Indigenous plant belongs to that area, so you won't find it in Western Australia. Yeah. It might be native in Western Australia, but it doesn't belong there. Yeah. So it's Indigenous to Melbourne. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I've got Banksias.
Yeah.
But I know that they were found in Western Australia.
Yes.
They don't grow naturally.
So they're native here.
Native.
But in Western Australia, they're indigenous.
But not in Melbourne.
Not in Melbourne.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
And then you get endemic, which is
oh my goodness,
even more location-based. But endemic, it means it's only in that area.
Wow.
So we might get Poa lab, common tussock grass, native to Australia, indigenous to a lot of places in Australia. So it's not endemic to one area.
Sure.
But another plant you might find you only find it in that one area. But that I think was the best bit of feedback for the garden. Someone really loved gardens and loved our garden, but it just doesn't even like native plants. It's like, you've done it when you can convert someone.
I think it's beautiful that you use native plants because I, to be honest, haven't always loved native plants, but I haven't seen them used the way you used them.
Yeah.
So the way you grouped them together to create a garden, I'd seen native plants, almost like a token plant in the garden to say, oh, I have a native, I'm doing my bit.
Yeah.
But to see the way that they could still, and the other criticism I've heard is that natives are boring in the colour and texture.
Yeah.
But what I'm learning as I go along and talk to people is that some people actually need the quite subdued palette, like you talked about, to have that grounding experience, because if they go into a garden that's full of red and yellow and that, their nervous system is overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I love that. Well, we have this choice in Australia where we have these plants that do really well and grow where we are, and they can bring that calming, grounded feeling. And I think that's what you achieved so beautifully. And you showed us that a native garden can be beautiful and calming. And then it does have, if you spend time and look at it a little bit longer, this is what I noticed standing and looking at the reset garden, is that the purple started to come out, the little, I can't remember what they called, the flowers.
Oh, we had purple kangaroo paws.
Yep. And there was some smaller flowers. Anyway, so the longer you stand there and take notice, the colour starts to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, which I think is a result of that texture first, colour second, because there were a lot of flowers in that garden, but they were hidden away. You had to be calm to notice them. I think you had to really be focused. And I think in being focused, you become present and you become aware. You become aware of the moving leaves, the moving screen panels. You become aware of the sound of water and then the colour. So I think the colour only pops out when you're ready for it. I think you need to be present and calm for it. Yeah.
So you won gold for the garden. What does that mean?
Yeah. So we came, it's a bit funny. So there's a few different categories. All the other gardens were gold, silver, bronze. We were actually first, second and third in our category. So we came first out of the 5 finalists in the boutique section. I'm not really sure. I mean, there's a criteria you get judged against.
Yeah.
I know you have to hit your brief. So you have to write your brief while you have to meet your brief because the brief is your client. And then you get judged on construction details. So you need to make sure everything's finished well. Construction gets judged. Plant use gets judged. I think there's a creativity section. Yeah, so there's a criteria you get judged against.
So good. So part of this podcast, because it's the Sentimental Gardener, I love to find out about 3 plants or green spaces that have a special memory or a moment attached to them. So I'd love to hear the first one.
Mine will be plants, sentimental plants. I have one really funny one to start with.
Okay.
So my dad's an arborist, so he loves trees. He's an arborist consultant, so he studied trees, loves trees, and has shared that love with me growing up. And growing up in the Dandenong Ranges, there's a lot of exotic plants, a lot of exotic trees around the place. And in autumn, this becomes really evident with all the colours. And we had 2 in our garden growing up in Monbulk, and one of our favourite trees, I'm not sure if it was a favourite for Dad, but it meant a lot to us, was the tulip tree.
Oh, wow.
So these trees have these really distinct shaped leaves.
Okay.
And I think every 2 or 4 years they flower, and the flower is like a tulip, which is crazy on these big, like 15, 20 metre tall trees.
Wow.
You get these incredible flowers. But what was sentimental was we had this game in the car. So if ever Dad was in the car with us, my sister and I, it'd be this race with me, my sister and my dad. Anytime we saw a tulip tree, we had to be the first to yell out, tulip tree.
Really?
And it was this game, and it made us take note of the trees around us. Definitely noticed tulip trees. We knew where they all were because we knew when we were coming up to it, we had to race to say it first. And we had one coming up our driveway, so every time we drove home, we would yell out, tulip tree.
Tulip tree.
Yeah. So that's sentimental.
Mm.
I think both my mum and my dad, they've moved house recently.
Mm-hmm.
And before they moved, they both grabbed a tulip leaf and they've both got them in the back of their phone case. So it was a special tree to us all growing up. But I'll never forget. Oh, even now driving around, I see a tulip tree and in my head I yell out, tulip tree.
I love that. So cool.
So that's a special plant for me. Another one is also a tree, also related to Dad's love of trees. I guess trees, we knew what they were called because Dad would tell us. So there are a lot of early memories of trees. Again, growing up in Mumbock, we had this house on the south side of a very steep hill, but it meant we had a pretty cool view. And across the valley there was this forest, Sherbrooke Forest. Mm-hmm. We had all these eucalyptus trees that we'd look out onto. And I just remember summer evenings we'd sit outside, Mum, Dad, myself and my sister. We'd sit outside and we'd eat dinner on the veranda, or we'd just hang out on the veranda because it was too hot inside, and we'd just look out over the view. And in the afternoons and evenings, we'd sit on the veranda and we'd make pictures. We'd draw pictures out of the silhouettes of the eucalyptus trees, so the forest, the canopy. And I remember there was this big car. There were these three faces. You could see these three faces in the trees. Yeah, I think we started playing with the trees when it got too dark to see the clouds. So these trees were kind of silhouetted against the darkening sky, which was, I just remember, we sold this family home late last year. So up until then, I'd walk on the veranda and I couldn't not see the pictures. Yeah. And every year these pictures would change because the canopies would grow. And it was a summer thing, so you'd only do it in summer. Yeah. But one of these trees in this range, this canopy, was a Eucalyptus elata. Okay. Not actually aware of the common name of that one. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We can look it up.
I think it's a river mint or a river mint. But it's one of the tallest, most prolifically flowering eucalypts we have. And I just remember it'd be, I guess, late summer and it would just be covered in white eucalyptus flowers. And it was so stark against the rest of the eucalypts that it was next to. And I think that was really special, that tree. There's something about it, just seeing that tree once a year in full flower. So a bit of a sentimental tree, but it ties into that story of drawing pictures in the canopies.
Yeah, I love that because so many people have that memory as kids, like you said, of the making pictures of the clouds.
Yeah, yeah.
But I love that your parents were like, okay, well, let's look at the trees.
Yeah.
And that by showing you how to observe them, you got to know the shape intimately.
Yeah,
like
we really
structure of the canopy.
Yeah, we really observed this forest, and we'd notice when a tree died, or if it was in flower, we'd notice the birds, or if a branch fell because suddenly there was a new picture.
Yeah,
and we'd notice the trees growing. Like it's not like it wasn't just something that happened in the background. We were actively aware of it, which I guess is an awareness I have now, but back then I was just drawing pictures in the trees.
That's a beautiful memory to hold together, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got, and gosh, every flower has a different meaning. It's a different story I could draw on. But yeah, I think proteas, two of these are not native. Everything I do now revolves around native plants. So it's interesting that my background is quite exotic. But proteas, and I say that, and I say not native, they're not native. A lot of people think they're native to Australia.
Yeah, so me and my everyday gardenerness, I just thought proteas were native.
No, they're actually native to South Africa, where I was born.
Where you came from, yeah.
They fit the native palette so well. They're so easy to grow. They're hardy and they're beautiful. So I think a lot of, especially in floristry, they're considered native because they fit the palette, but they're not native. They're beautiful. I do love them. Yeah, we used to play catch with the flower heads. So when the flowers were just budding, you pick them and they're like little rugbies.
So awesome.
Can I list one more? Got one
more.
Go
for it.
This is a bit odd, but
no, that's fine.
Maybe not story. So odd. Tomatoes.
Oh, tell me more.
Tomato plants. we spent so much time as kids outside in the garden while Mum and Dad were gardening. And I remember in Monbulk, shady property, really hard to grow tomatoes or any veggies, because we'd get such little shade sun where we were, lots of shade, very little sun. And I remember, I think it was like my 15th or 16th birthday, we just had a big greenhouse installed so we could hopefully grow some veggies. And I think it was on my birthday, it was a Sunday, and it was finally ready to plant. And we planted tomato seedlings all throughout the greenhouse. I think it was the only thing we planted that year. We just got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tomatoes for the first time, like after years of struggling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think looking back, I don't know how I ever thought I wouldn't be in landscape design or in horticulture, because it was my childhood. But tomatoes, the tomato bushes, I don't know if you've ever, on a hot summer day, watered tomato bushes. The smell, I think that's something that's really strong. Smell always takes people back. I think it's a really strong memory trigger, and plants are so fragrant. It's hard not to remember something.
We'll wind up with some quick fire questions. So just if you can answer the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay. Oh, here we go.
All right. When you're designing gardens, do you prefer to use pencils or software, a computer?
Oh, I'd love to say I prefer pencils. That would just be so romantic, and it's, I guess, something I'd love to do. And I do a lot of hand sketching before it ever makes it to the computer. But the freedom you get working on online software, if you make a mistake, it's Control-Z, you undo the mistake. Like, it's so easy to do iteration after iteration online. So every process starts by hand with trace paper and pencil, just to get really quick ideas out on the page.
Yeah.
Because you don't know you've got a good idea until you've explored all the bad ideas.
Love that.
So you've got to do it on paper, I think, first. But once you've got the idea, I take it online and I work with software just for that. You present the first iteration to the clients. There's a million changes. I'm not going to hand draw something over and over. It's also a cost thing, I think, the time it would take to hand draw something.
Okay.
It's not feasible, I think, cost-wise.
Yeah.
If you've got to make 10 changes, it's, so I'd love to say pencil, but no, software.
Do you prefer to get outside in the garden and wear gloves or bare hands?
Oh, again, I'd love to say bare hands because that's cool. But if you work a day in the garden with bare hands, I don't know, my hands get so dry and cracked, and touching anything for the next 12 hours feels so awful. So I think if I was like picking like the odd weed, if I was going outside for 10 minutes in my own veggie garden, no gloves, I wouldn't know where to find gloves for 10 minutes of work. But if I'm doing a day's labour, like gardening, I definitely wear gloves.
That makes sense. Okay. What's your favourite plant to use in a native garden?
Wow. Oh, that's a hard one. The first one that comes to mind is kangaroo grass, Sentimental triandra. Wouldn't use too many grasses. I have in the past, and I find that they self-seed and they take over a garden.
Right.
But again, my addiction to soft flowing plants, you can't move past a grass. And the seed head of a kangaroo grass it's one of my favourite plants.
Yeah.
It has been since I discovered the plant, and it's, definitely a favourite.
What is one garden you'd still love to visit?
So I haven't visited many gardens, I think, at this stage, like internationally, or still there's a long list. First one that pops into my head, and it's been first on this list for years now, is the Palace of Versailles. One assignment in uni, I had to draw and redraw and redraw those gardens.
Wow.
To the point where I could probably draw it from my head now. I spent so long studying this garden and staring at it. So I'd love to visit it in person. Yeah.
Is that quite a structured garden with the hedging and all? Yeah.
That's kind of what I love. So it goes against completely.
That's what I'm sitting here going, hang on.
Yeah.
Just talked about these
doesn't
flowing
make sense,
gardens.
does it?
And you'd love to see the box hedges and
but the history behind it. So the gardens of the Palace of Versailles are designed around this hierarchy between sun, god, king and man.
Really?
So I just find all of that fascinating.
Yeah, okay.
So, yes, I love my free-flowing gardens and my kind of wild spaces, but I'd love to visit some of the more structured gardens in Europe, Italy, France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose you've worked, like you said, all those years ago back in those big gardens in the city. So you have an appreciation of how much work is involved to maintain them to that standard, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yes. If you worked in it, you'd have a much deeper
Yeah.
knowledge about what goes on to get them to that standard.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, last question. One person you'd love to sit outside in the garden with, have a cup of tea and talk about gardens with.
I love this question. I would love to, this is, I think, an interesting answer, an odd answer. I'd love to sit outside, or I'd love a garden tour from Beverly Nichols. He's an author, an English author. Don't even know when, not this century, maybe last century. I think even post-war, so post-First World War.
Right.
He wrote this book, Merry Hall.
Okay.
I would recommend it to any avid gardener. The way Beverly Nichols talks about his garden in this book of his, the way he approaches gardening is just so fun and playful.
Really?
Yeah. There's two things I really love about Beverly Nichols' relationship with his gardens. For one, he has this garden estate and it had no trees on it, I believe, when he first acquired it. And instead of just going out and designing it on paper and planning, he just took a bunch of garden stakes and hit them into the ground where he wanted these trees. And for months afterwards, he would move the stakes and envision it. And really, I think the practical, hands-on, playful way of exploring design, that's something I loved. And then he had a dinner party. So this book is a somewhat biographical. Okay. So it's a book, but these things happened. He had a dinner party and each guest got gifted a small bag of bulbs, and they had to go out into the garden and plant the bulbs wherever they liked.
I love that.
So come spring, there were these pops of colour, and Beverly Nichols had no idea where these bulbs would appear.
What a great idea.
I love the playfulness. And so I'd truly love to have a tour from Beverly Nichols of his garden.
Oh, that sounds divine.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great
Again, totally not native. It's somewhat structured, but less structured when you don't know where bulbs are coming up.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm seeing and hearing is it's the getting people involved and participating in being outside.
Absolutely.
That's sort of connecting all of your stories.
Yes.
That paying attention, and then for Beverly, he has to then go outside and wait with the expectation of where the bulbs come up. Yeah. I love that.
I think that's spot on, the engagement, getting people outside and engaging with their spaces. Yeah, love it. It's a core driver of a lot of my work.
So good. Well, Jocelyn Bennett, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And for sharing your designs and your heart and all your stories with us. It's so generous of you. So thank you for being my guest on the Sentimental Gardener podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here.
What stood out to me most about Jocelyn's story is how her parents understood something profound about raising children who notice the world around them. There was no curriculum for playing the tulip tree game. No educational program for drawing pictures in eucalyptus canopies. Just a dad who loved trees and shared that love naturally. And parents who made evening time on the veranda a ritual of looking and seeing together. They didn't set out to create a landscape designer. They just invited Jocelyn along into their own fascination with the world. And look what grew from that gentle attention. The child who raced to spot tulip trees first learned to help others slow down and really see native plants. The teenager who drew faces in forest canopies became someone who designs gardens where you have to be present. In our age of parenting guides and educational frameworks, there's something beautifully submersive about Jocelyn's story. Her parents didn't follow the script on how to raise an environmentally conscious child. They just lived their own curiosity out loud and made space for her to be a part of it. sometimes the most important things we pass on might just happen in the margins. In car rides where we point out trees, in quiet evenings where we sit together and look at the world, and in walks where we collect flowers and cuttings, not because we're teaching botany, but because we love flowers. Jocelyn's reset garden proved that native plants can be spectacular, but her story proves something even more important. That the way we see is learned, and the deepest learning happens through time and presence, not pressure. Maybe the most radical thing we can do as parents, teachers, or simply people who care about the next generation is trust that sharing what we love, without agenda, without educational outcomes in mind, plants seeds we may never see grow, but that will bloom in ways we could never imagine. You can find Jocelyn's work at Earthcore Landscapes and follow their projects on Instagram. See the show notes for the handle. If you enjoyed this conversation, consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes are released fortnightly-ish, and you can listen to older episodes anytime on Apple or Spotify. A big thank you today to Hayden Schuler from Varaya Gardening for the theme music, and to Tom Dowding for audio support. Produced and edited by me, Cass Dowding. This podcast was recorded on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations.